Hey folks, Justin from Tackle Tactics in the shed, gearing up. I've got a handful of my go-to ZMan 3-inch minnows. I've got a bundle of TT snake eyes, and tomorrow morning before work, I'm going to take you out for a quick session and talk through how I fish weedless for flathead, and hopefully we can get hooked up to a couple. Fish on. Alright folks, today we're going to have a look at some tips for fishing weedless for flathead. We're going to keep it nice and simple. So on the rods here I've got, using that 3 colour theory that I often follow, I've got a light natural colour, I've got a darker silhouette colour, and I've got a fluoro, and I'm pretty much going to pair them up with a plastic that matches them. So we've got our Slam Shady on the pearl head, that Gold Rush black and gold on that dark silhouette head, and then I've got a couple of different fluoro options for our chartreuse head. I've got that sexy mullet, and I've also got a favourite of mine, Purple Death, which is a good UV colour. Alright, let's get amongst it. So when rigging weedless, when you are fishing heavy weed, one tip that I would give you is to make sure that you grab plenty of chin. Like don't just grab a tiny bit, grab a fair bit of chin on there. And what that's going to do is when we push it up into the gap here, it's going to fill that gap so that we're not catching weed on that chin lock keeper. So we've filled it up with plastic. And then we simply just line up where we want our plastic to go through. I say simply, I probably won't get it straight first go. Oh no, there we go. So we want to come out through the fin there. And basically we're ready to go weedless then. So that's going to hide up in there, and that's beautiful. We can run it through all sorts of weed and structure. So where do I use this if I'm fishing for flatties? Primarily mangrove edges, weed beds and weed edges. And today we've got what I call junk tides or rubbish tides, so it's about a 0.7 low. So normally for flatties I like a 0.3 to 0.4 on the edges, but this 0.7 means the water's staying up on the weed edge, so the flatties are staying up on the weed edge. So I need to be right in amongst that weed, and that's where the weedless presentation comes in handy. So I'll run 3 1/8 ounce and 1/4 ounce heads mainly on those snake eyes, and a 3/0 hook in that 3-inch minnows. One other key thing you want to be doing is putting scent on there. Because we are fishing weedless, we really want to encourage those fish to bite at plastic, eat it hard, you know, we really want them to grab it. So anything we can do to help them feed more aggressively on that plastic, the better. So I'll put some mullet Procure Super Gel on there, and now we're ready to try our luck on a flatfish. Sometimes I'll just slow roll the plastic, but often I'll go those couple of hops and a pause. And because we're fishing weedless without that exposed hook, I'll often fish a little bit, not quicker, but quicker on the pause. So normally I might let the plastic sit and pause for a long time, especially if the bite's slow. When I fish weedless, I tend to keep those pauses shorter, and that way there's a more positive hook set again. Great thing with ZMan is 10 times tough, super soft and flexible, so the plastic does clear the hook really well when you're fishing weedless, but we can help the cause a bit by keeping it moving. So bump, we're on the bottom, give it a few twitches, keep it moving. So I'm not leaving it sit on the bottom for too long. That way if I'm hopping the plastic, it's moving, the fish pulls against it, we get a solid hook set. That sun's coming out now, which is helping me see the pockets in the weed. So where possible I'm casting to those sandy pockets, because the flatties will be sitting up in those sandy pockets. But they'll also be right in amongst the weed. Especially when I get onto the main edges, the flathead will be sitting up on that weed because the tide's not dropping out. So you can see it just allows me to work the area a lot quicker and cover a lot more water, because I'm not continually picking weed off all the time, which can drive you bonkers. So definitely allows you more time fishing, less time with weed on the presentation or picking weed off the presentation. Right. Yeah. In the shallows as we get shallower, so fishing anywhere from no water down to about 2 meters of water. So I've got a 1/4 ounce here as well, which I'll put on for some shallow water work. Right, so you can see probably the turbulent water in front of me there, which is current running over weed beds. So that's what we like to see. Flathead will just be laying in the sand patches and in amongst that weed, letting the current bring them food. So we're going to bring this plastic back naturally through there, like it's the food that they're waiting for. They love eating mullet and whiting and that sort of thing, so that 3-inch MinnowZ is a perfect representation of bait fish. So we're basically just fanning our casts, making sure we cover the bank. Oh, there we go. What have we got there? Oh, drilled it. Oh, what are you? Oh, you can see I was hopping that with limited pauses. Just giving it the hop, 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 pause, thump on the bottom, back up again. Oh, sweetie. That's not what we were expecting. That's probably what grabbed my plastic earlier as well. So there you go, that sweetie cleared the hook no problem. Beautiful fish. Drilled it. Yeah. That's the great thing about that super soft and flexible EyeZ is that it does clear so well. So that guy's thumped it, got the plastic out of the way. Now if you look at the mess there where that plastic's just been smashed up the hook, so if you're fishing a soft plastic that's not 10 times tough, then that plastic is probably done and dusted on that one fish. So that nice long cast, get it out there, let it hit the bottom, wind, 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 hit, wind, 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 hit, wind, 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 hit the bottom. So you can see as I'm winding that reel, and as we get closer to the kayak, we've got to give it a bit longer to get to the bottom. And we just keep working the shallows. Until we find our target. Oh, fish on. Oh, awesome take. What are you, buddy? He drilled that up on that edge. He's not happy. Oh, cranky flatfish. Come here, buddy. Oh, and there we go. Target species that time. Beautiful. Geez, he drilled that. That's awesome. That's our flatty pinned on the weedless head. Normally pins him pretty well when it does get him. Settle down, buddy. Settle down, settle down, settle down, settle down. That's on that dark head. We've got run out tide, so the water can get a bit dirty on the run out tide. Flatty wrestle on him. Come on, buddy. So he's pinned nicely. Pinned nicely on that weedless head. You can see there, that's definitely found its mark. Often hooks them in the corner of the jaw, right in the jaw hinge, which makes it hard for the fish to escape. There we go. Our weedless presentation. Hook cleared, no problem. Found its mark in that nice little flatty. He's got a couple of dings and injuries on him. That's a good pan size fish. Fishing weedless right up in this weed on this edge. Not letting it sit for too long definitely gives you that positive hook set. So we'll go right in on that weed edge. she's pretty shallow in there, so we'll keep it moving straight up. So you can do a 1 2 3, 1 2 3, hit the bottom, 1 2 3, hit the bottom, 1 2 3. You can fish it like that if you want to, or you can fish it with a standard. Give it a few rips up, give it a pause, hit the bottom, give it a few rips up, Willmer on the bottom. And I just don't leave it paused generally as long on the bottom, because we want to, when the fish grabs it, we want to get that solid hook set. If the fishing's really slow, you can pause it a little longer. Generally I'm running and gunning these weed edges, looking for active fish that are feeding. Okay guys, my GoPro was frozen up then, so I don't know whether my GoPro caught this fish on camera. Have a look at that fish, that is an absolute beast. So it followed the plastic up, and I saw it follow the plastic up, drop the plastic back down. I'm going to put her in the water and give her a swim. Don't want to keep her out of the water too long. So that fish, basically, I saw it come up behind the lure, shadowing the lure up. And, oh man, I freaked out because I thought I'd done my chance. But then the fish was still aggressive on the lure, so I dropped the lure back down and boom, got the hit. And that is just so cool. That's, you know, that's weedless fishing. I got that in where the fish was, and I got the fish. Look at that weapon, what a fish. She is beautiful. And that is drilled right in the hinge of the jaw, which is where you want to hook them, because it makes it hard for them to throw the hook. So I'm going to get that hook out. That's awesome. That's so cool. That's on the snake eyes, black glow eye, gold rush coloured 3-inch minnows. What a beast. And she is away. She's lurking back into the shallows there, back into the weed. Woo! Pumped. Pumped. What a fish. What a fish. Yeah. So cool. Oh man, I really hope that follow-up was on GoPro, because that was just amazing. There she is, just cruising in the shallows there. Man, what an angry fish. Oh, that's seriously cool. She's just laying on the bottom down there. Don't know if you can see her. We'll sneak back over her a little bit. She's down on the bottom there, just having a rest. So cool. I just love that black glow eye. That's probably one of my favourites with the gold rush. A lot of the water I fish is dirty, and when I'm fishing around weed as well, I love that dark profile. But that's a 3/8 ounce 3.0, 3-inch minnows, big flatfish slayer. Got one nick on that leader there. That's always good to check your leader after a fish. So I've got one little nick there, but I will replace that. So a nick on my leader, so I want to retie my leader. I simply just tie a locked blood knot. Just to keep that plastic in place. Locked blood knot's nice and secure. I can get that tag pointing back that way so it doesn't catch weed either. And we're ready to go again. That was cool. I've had a few big flatties like that follow it right to the boat or the yak over the years. It's pretty cool. I don't like to give up on the cast too early with a flatty, because your retrieve changes as you bring it in closer to the boat or the yak. So if they've followed it out a fair way and the lure starts to come off the bottom more, or you retrieve a little quicker or something, can sometimes get them to eat it. So you'll often, especially with the kayak, you'll often get hits from flatties right at the yak. That big girl just followed it right up to the yak and almost broke the surface. Wasn't far down, but still wanted that plucky. So I lowered it back down, gave her a chance to eat it, and then set the hook. And that was, yeah, that was so cool. Unfortunately, I think the GoPro was frozen on that, but we gave you a look at her anyway. So where I landed there, I saw with the sun, I'm heavily up in the weed there with that cast initially. So the trouble if you're fishing a standard jig head, when the tide's right up on that weed, you kind of, if you can't clearly see where the edge is to pick the edge, you often end up in the weed, and then your jig head can be fouled right from the start. So you've got weed on there right from the beginning, and then the fish won't eat it. So by having a weedless presentation, I can throw it just right up on the edge there and get those fish that are laying in the weed and give it a full retrieve right back to the yak. In terms of rods and reels and line and leader and that sort of thing for fishing weedless, I use pretty much the same combos that I use for fishing standard weight jig heads. More about the weight of the presentation and that sort of thing. So for the 1/4 ounce head, 3-inch minnows, I'll be flicking that on a 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 kilo rod. On a, you know, just your 2500 size reel is fine. I've got 1000 there on the 1 to 3 kilo because I use it for Ned rigging a lot as well. So 1 to 3 kilo or 2 to 4 kilo with a 2500, 10-pound braid, 10-pound leader. 10-pound leader protects you a bit. If that big girl that I just got before, if she inhales it, she can, oh yeah, there we go, she can make short work of your, oh no, bit of bottom it was, I think. She can make short work of your leader. So 10 pound gives you a bit of insurance. Also, you know, you might catch dewey, tailor, snapper, other species eating your 3-inch minnows. So that, yeah, 10-pound leader is a good starting point. 10-pound braid's good, nice and thin, cast long. If you want to fish 6 or 8-pound braid, that's cool. And then I also have my 3 1/8 heads, so I fish them on a 2 to 4 or 3 to 6 kilo rod. 2500 size reel again, 10-pound braid, 10-pound leader. So the only reason I go heavier in the rod is to be able to cast and work those heavier jig heads more effectively. All right, that's it. We've got to tap out, a quick hour before work, so just a short one this week, but hopefully that gave you a few tips for fishing weedless plastics for flathead. That TT Snake Eyes jig head are my go-to 3-inch minnows. We've got that little sweetie, we've got a couple of flatties, got that nice flatty, but if you use those techniques, you should get stuck into a few flathead locally on your own weed beds, mangrove edges and other structure. So all the best, fish on. Cheers.